I want you to know something before we begin. If you're here right now, if you clicked on this video, it's probably because studying feels impossible. Not hard, not challenging, impossible. And I need you to hear this. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not failing because you lack discipline or willpower or intelligence. What you're experiencing is not a character flaw. It's a neurological response to a nervous system that has been running on empty for far too long. Your brain right now is doing exactly what it's designed to do when it perceives threat, when it's overwhelmed, when it's been asked to function beyond its capacity without rest. It's protecting you. And I know that doesn't feel like protection. It feels like paralysis. It feels like staring at a textbook for 40 minutes without reading a single sentence. It feels like opening your laptop and immediately feeling your chest tighten. It feels like knowing exactly what you need to do, but being unable to make your body move toward it. That's not laziness. That's your nervous system saying, I can't take on one more thing right now. And the truth is, anxiety doesn't just make you feel bad. It physically changes how your brain processes information. When your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for detecting danger, is activated, it essentially hijacks your prefrontal cortex, which is where executive function lives. Executive function is what allows you to plan, organize, initiate tasks, hold information in your working memory, and shift between different types of thinking. When anxiety floods your system, your brain prioritizes survival over everything else. And studying is not survival. So your brain deprioritizes it completely. And then you feel guilty. You feel ashamed. You tell yourself you're not trying hard enough. But here's what's actually happening. Your working memory, which is like a mental workspace where you hold and manipulate information, shrinks dramatically under stress. Studies show that anxiety can reduce working memory capacity by up to 50%. That means when you're anxious, you're not operating with your full cognitive resources. You're trying to study with half of your brain unavailable. And still, you blame yourself. Let me tell you what happens inside your mind when you sit down to study while anxious. First, there's the task itself. The reading, the notes, the concepts you need to understand. But then there's also the anxiety about the task. The thought that you're already behind. The fear that you won't understand it. The memory of the last time you tried and failed. The comparison to everyone else who seems to be managing just fine. The shame about needing to rest when you feel like you should be working. All of that is running in the background constantly, taking up space in your working memory. It chooses the storm because the storm feels urgent. The storm feels like survival. And then you can't focus. And then you feel worse. And the cycle continues. But here's the part that no one tells you. You can't think your way out of this. You can't discipline your way out of this. You can't force your nervous system to calm down by shaming it into submission. The only way through this is to work with your nervous system, not against it. And that starts with understanding that studying, when you're anxious, isn't actually about studying. It's about regulating your nervous system enough that your brain feels safe enough to engage with learning. And that changes everything. So let's talk about what that actually looks like. Not in theory. Not in an abstract, aspirational way, but in practice. In the quiet, unglamorous, deeply mundane reality of what it takes to study when your nervous system is screaming at you to stop. It starts before you even open a book. It starts with the recognition that your body is not your enemy. Your body is giving you information. The tightness in your chest, the restlessness in your legs, the fog in your mind. These are not obstacles to push through. They are signals. And the first step is to listen, not to fix, not to override, just to listen. So before you study, you pause. You sit somewhere comfortable. You close your eyes if that feels okay, or you soften your gaze if closing your eyes feels too vulnerable. And you take one breath, not a deep breath, not a perfect breath, just one breath where you notice the air moving in and out of your body. You don't try to change it. You don't try to make it slower or deeper or calmer. You just notice it, because noticing is the beginning of regulation. When you notice your breath, you're telling your nervous system, I'm here. I'm present. I'm not in danger. And your nervous system starts to believe you. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But slowly, incrementally, your body begins to soften. And then you check in with yourself. Not in a judgmental way. Not in a way that's looking for proof that you're broken or behind or failing. But in a curious way. You ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? And you listen for the answer. Maybe you need water. Maybe you need to move your body for 2 minutes. Maybe you need to eat something. Maybe you need to cry. Maybe you need to text a friend. Maybe you need to do nothing at all for 5 more minutes. Whatever the answer is, you honor it. Because when you honor your needs, you're building trust with your nervous system. You're showing it that you're on its side. And that trust is what allows you to eventually study without your entire body resisting. And then, when you're ready, not when you think you should be ready, but when your body actually feels stable enough, you begin. But you don't begin with the concept that makes you feel stupid. You begin with something small. Something that feels almost laughably easy. You open your notebook. That's it. You don't write anything yet. You just open it. You look at the blank page. You notice the color of the paper, the weight of it, the way the light falls across it. You're not studying yet. You're just acclimating. You're letting your brain understand that this space, this act of opening the notebook, is not a threat. And then maybe you pick up a pen. You hold it. You feel the texture of it in your hand. You're still not writing. You're just being with the tools of studying. You're desensitizing your nervous system to the act of engaging with learning. Because for so long, studying has been paired with anxiety. Your brain has learned that studying equals danger. And now you're retraining it. You're showing it that studying can be neutral, that it can be slow, that it can be gentle. And then, when your body feels ready, you write one sentence. Not a perfect sentence. Not a smart sentence. Just one sentence. Maybe it's a summary of something you read. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's just the title of the chapter you're working on. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you did something. You engaged. And your nervous system didn't collapse. You proved to yourself that you can be in proximity to studying without falling apart. And that is progress. That is real, tangible, neurological progress. And here's what happens next. You don't keep going. Not yet. You pause again. You take another breath. You notice how you feel. Maybe you feel a little proud. Maybe you feel relieved. Maybe you feel nothing at all. All of that is okay. You're not trying to feel a certain way. You're just checking in. You're staying connected to your body. And then you decide, do I have the capacity to write another sentence? Or do I need to stop here? And whatever the answer is, you honor it. Because the goal is not to study for 3 hours. The goal is to build a relationship with studying that doesn't activate your fight or flight response. And that takes time. It takes repetition. It takes patience. And it takes the willingness to celebrate the smallest possible increments of progress. Because your brain learns through repetition. And if you can repeat the experience of engaging with studying without your nervous system collapsing, eventually, your brain will stop perceiving studying as a threat. It will become neutral. And then maybe it will even become safe. And when something feels safe, your prefrontal cortex comes back online. Your working memory expands. Your ability to focus returns. Not because you forced it, but because you created the conditions for it to emerge naturally. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is too slow. I don't have time for this. I'm already behind, and I understand. I really do. But here's the thing. When you're anxious, pushing harder doesn't work. It backfires. Because every time you push through anxiety, every time you force yourself to study while your nervous system is in distress, you're reinforcing the association between studying and danger. You're teaching your brain that studying is something to be feared. And so the next time you try to study, the resistance is even stronger. The paralysis is even deeper. You're not building capacity. You're depleting it. But when you go slowly, when you work with your nervous system instead of against it, you're actually building something sustainable. You're creating a foundation. And yes, it takes time. But the alternative, the cycle of pushing, collapsing, feeling guilty, pushing again, that takes time too. And it doesn't lead anywhere except more exhaustion. So maybe, just maybe, slow is actually faster. Maybe working with your nervous system is the only way to get to the other side of this. And as you continue this practice, as you return to it day after day, something shifts. Not all at once. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. But quietly, subtly, you start to notice that opening your notebook doesn't feel as heavy. That writing one sentence doesn't require as much effort. That your body doesn't tense up the moment you think about studying. And these changes are small. So small that you might not even notice them at first. But they're real. They're neurological. Your brain is rewiring itself. It's learning that studying is not a threat. And as that happens, your capacity grows. You start to be able to write 2 sentences, then a paragraph, then a page. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because your nervous system has enough regulation to support it. And that's when studying starts to feel different. It stops feeling like something you have to survive. It starts to feel like something you can actually do. And I want to talk about something else that happens when you're anxious and trying to study. The guilt, the shame, the feeling that everyone else is managing and you're the only one falling apart. The comparison, the voice in your head that says, if you just tried harder, if you just cared more, if you were just better, this wouldn't be so hard. And I need you to know that voice is lying to you. That voice is not telling you the truth. It's telling you a story that anxiety wants you to believe. Because anxiety thrives on isolation. It thrives on the belief that you're uniquely broken. But you're not. What you're experiencing is common. It's human. It's what happens when a nervous system is overwhelmed. And the people who seem like they're managing fine, some of them are. And some of them are struggling just like you, but they're not talking about it. And some of them have different nervous systems, different histories, different support systems, different circumstances. Comparison, it's just another way anxiety tries to convince you that you're failing. But you're not failing. You're surviving. And surviving is enough. More than enough. And as you practice this, as you learn to study in a way that doesn't activate your fight or flight response, you also learn something else. You learn that rest is not a reward. It's not something you earn by being productive. It's a biological necessity. It's what your nervous system needs to function. And when you start to honor rest, when you start to see it as part of the process rather than a deviation from it, everything changes. Because rest is when your brain consolidates learning. It's when your nervous system recalibrates. It's when your body repairs itself. Without rest, there is no learning. There is no focus. There is no capacity. So rest is not the opposite of productivity. It's the foundation of it. And the more you can internalize that, the more you can let go of the guilt that comes with needing rest, the easier everything becomes. And here's the other thing. You don't have to feel motivated to study. You don't have to feel inspired or energized or excited. You just have to feel regulated enough to begin. Motivation is not a prerequisite. It's a byproduct. It comes after you start, not before. And when you understand that, when you stop waiting to feel motivated, when you stop believing that you need to feel a certain way before you can engage, you free yourself from so much unnecessary suffering. You can study while feeling neutral. You can study while feeling tired. You can study while feeling a little sad. As long as your nervous system is regulated enough to support the task, you can do it. And that's liberating. That's the difference between waiting for the perfect conditions and creating conditions that are good enough. And as you continue this practice, as you build this relationship with studying, you start to notice something else. The overstimulation starts to decrease. The resistance starts to soften. The fog starts to lift. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're working with your brain instead of against it. You're honoring your nervous system's needs. You're building trust with your body. And your brain responds. It starts to feel safe. And when your brain feels safe, it can do what it's designed to do. It can learn. It can focus. It can remember. It can think. And you start to realize that you were never the problem. Your brain was never broken. It was just overwhelmed. And now, slowly, carefully, gently, you're giving it the support it needs to function again. And I want to end with this. Healing is not linear. Progress is not linear. There will be days when you can study for an hour and it feels manageable. And there will be days when you can barely write a sentence. And both of those days, and the practice is the same. You check in with your nervous system. You honor what you need. You start small. You go slowly. You build trust. And you keep going. Not because you have to be perfect, but because you deserve to feel capable. You deserve to feel like you can engage with learning without your entire body shutting down. And you can. I promise you, you can. It just takes time. It takes patience. It takes compassion. And it takes the willingness to believe that you are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not failing. You are healing. And healing is the bravest, hardest, most important work you will ever do. So be gentle with yourself.